And now you're up to date on News Talk.
And welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you through until 8 o'clock on a special extended show, the final programme before Christmas. Crystal Palace 0, Liverpool 5 is the latest score from their match in the Premier League. Emphatic from the champions. Roberto Firmino has scored twice to Minamino. Sadio Mane, Jordan Henderson also on target. So a great week for Liverpool after the win over Spurs. The leaders in the Championship, Norwich, are 2-0 up on Cardiff. There is 75 minutes on the watch in the Liverpool game. Let's check in now on the Champions Cup. Leinster against Northampton at the RDS. James Downey.
Well, John, how are you? Welcome back to the RDS. And it's just the second half just about to kick off, where it's Leinster 22, Northampton 14. And Northampton are actually just holding on here, and they're holding into their own and putting Leinster under fierce pressure. Leinster came out of the block, scored early through Josh Murphy. Keane Healy followed up, and then you expected Leinster to pull away, but Northampton certainly didn't read that script, and they got a great score. And their first time in the 22, Fraser Dingwell runs a great short line off a short pass from Tom James and goes right in under the sticks. From there, you expected Leinster just to kind of kick on a little bit more. Ross Byrne held in there with a penalty, made it 17-7 on the 28th minute. But Northampton again put them right under pressure, get back in there, get a scrum. After a series of challenges up on the left and right hand side, putting Leinster under that pressure. Tom James gets over under a score, and only for the last minute try, just on the half-time note from Leinster, it brings them into 22-14 to the home side, but a lot of words at half-time, and Leinster just need a hell of a lot more control.
So this is a bit more tricky than the Montpellier game, James?
Oh, massively so, John. I think it's Leinster have kind of come out and they're throwing the ball around, they're a little bit too loose, and just need to settle a bit more. They were playing sevens and it's not gone that way. And as I said, Northampton haven't read that script, and Northampton have looked very good, and they've looked extremely good defensively, and they've been able to cope with what Leinster have. To be fair, Leinster butchered a couple of opportunities as well, and Ross Byrne had a 2-on-1, and if he passes it, he goes in under the sticks, but he holds on to it. And just a couple of errors like that, you know, it's not the usual Leinster. They've been disrupted by a few injuries out there, and a lot of change in the personnel, but you'd still expect this team to pull away.
OK, James, back to you for updates on Leinster and Northampton throughout the next hour. It is time now for the Saturday panel.
You ain't shit! I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
Well, fans can be the harshest critics, you know.
And they often are.
A wife is often the harshest critic of her husband.
I thought I was invincible. That's what you're trained to believe as a sports person.
There was 4 million people in Ireland who knew much more about managing football teams than I did. When it comes to music, I can spoof with the best.
Your sporting career is the best time you'll have, and you know you have to hang on to it for as long as you like, because everything else is pretty crappy.
And this is not lies. Stephen Rothschild has never spoken to Jim McGuinness in his life.
And this is the panel on All-Ireland Football Final Day. Imagine saying those words in December of 2020. We're streaming this as well now as listening on News Talk. You can watch us on the social channels for Periscope, on Twitter, at Off The Ball, on YouTube, on Facebook, and we're streaming on the OTB Sports app as well. If you haven't downloaded it yet, you can search OTB Sports in your app store to do so. All-Ireland Football Final Day, what a way to end the strangest of years. Dublin and Mayo throw in at Croke Park at 5 o'clock, empty because of the impact of the coronavirus pandemic. But the pandemic will not defeat the resolution of people to keep going and stage this national sporting event today. 53106, that's our text number. We would especially like to hear from people in Dublin and Mayo. Have you decorated your house in the county colours? Let's hear your passion for Gaelic football today. Give us a shout out. And to look ahead over the next hour, I'm delighted to be joined by the former Dublin manager, Paul Pillar Caffrey, and the ex-Mayo boss, John O'Mahony. Gents, how are we getting on?
Hello, John.
How are we doing, John?
Yeah, great guys. Hello. Great guys. Good to see you and hear you. So, John, go on, John.
It's a strange setting with in my sitting room here in Ballahadreen with the Christmas tree on one side and such a low-key build-up to an All-Ireland final. But I think it's a fantastic achievement by the GAA in general to have it at this stage, and let's hope that we have a great final this evening.
Yeah, John, behind you there, and for anybody who's watching, there's a Galway 1998. That was the first All-Ireland you won, and in '89 you were with Mayo, and that was their first All-Ireland appearance since 1951, the last time they won it. You then went and got a Galway to the Sam Maguire Cup on a couple of occasions. A tenth final since '89 today, John, but the hope must always remain. The hope must always remain that you're going to break that duck.
Well, yes. I mean, it's an amazing story, I suppose, for Mayo. Like Dublin's dominance, Paul started it back in the noughties, but obviously, I suppose 2011 was the big breakthrough. And when you think of it, that's just 9 years ago, and we've been talking for the last couple of years of, as if this Dublin dominance is going to go on forever. But it's in many ways it's so recent. But I suppose Mayo have been the team that have. Unfortunately, I think you said 10. I think it's 12 if you count replays.
The replays, yeah.
But I mean, they have been consistently there. If you take since 11, since Dublin broke through in 11, you have, I suppose, 10. Cork had won the 2010 All Ireland. Kerry snuck in and won 1 All Ireland, 14. Donegal in 12. But the team that have constantly, if you like, put it up to Dublin, toe-to-toe to them, has been Mayo. Now, I think from a Mayo perspective, nobody expected them. I spoke to James Horton last October, and effectively, he was suggesting, obviously, that the team was very much in transition and to be a great target to win a Connacht Championship this year. But here we are, in a final. And with a freshness and I suppose the hope, the eternal hope that maybe that we'll say the upsets that happened during the year, Cavan, Tipperary, etc., Cork v Kerry, that there might be one final twist in the tail.
Yeah, John, and just to let you know, guys, Liverpool 6-0 up on Crystal Palace. Mo Salah scoring for Liverpool. Pillar, good afternoon. And when I was thinking about this during the week, Pillar, and there's a lot of anxiousness out there at the moment about Dublin's dominance, and people are maybe kind of a bit worried that they're going to go and win 10 in a row. But when I was thinking about your team in the noughties, I was thinking that really, like when you took over, you'd only won one of 9 Leinsters, and then you won 4 Leinsters in a row. And your team, even though you didn't get across the line, Pillar, was a great stepping stone, I think, to what we see now.
Yeah, look, back then Leinster was very competitive. I'd worked with Tommy Lyons for the previous 3 years, and we managed to win one of the Leinsters in 2002. And again, we got to a semi-final under Tommy and were a bit unlucky against Armagh, who went on and won it. The following 2 years, we were taken out by Westmeath and Laois, and then it spun around, and I got my chance to take over, and I very much set our sights on trying to win a Leinster title and trying to dominate Leinster. I just felt that, look, talk of All Ireland's back then in the first year or whatever, it wasn't for us because we weren't at that level, and we'd failed in the previous 9 attempts since 1995, so we just very much kept our eye on Leinster and whatever came after that. And look, as it turned out, under me, we managed to squeeze 4 Leinsters out of it, but ultimately Tyrone and Kerry were shared the All Irelands, 2 fantastic teams that would probably match up to this Dublin team if they're around in this era. So no, look, it was a small stepping stone, but I've said it since. The real catalyst for change was Pat Gilroy in 2011. That day against Kerry. And look, we all know, to win these things or to change the course of history, you need your slice of luck as well as playing very well and getting a lot of things right on the big day. And that day for Dublin, it just changed the history of the game in the city. I do believe if we had a losing that All-Ireland final, that none of this dominance that we're looking at now would have happened. I think Dublin would have won an All-Ireland eventually, but that gave a group of players huge confidence to go on. They learned some harsh lessons, and Jim just improved things up another notch when he came in. So it is quite remarkable what we're witnessing at the moment, but I am of the belief that this will not go on forever. I think the talk of 10 in a row is nonsense. I don't think Mayo without hope today, albeit a bit like 2011, a lot would need to go right for them. And I think the biggest thing is when you're a challenger, you have to be in the game on the 65th minute and see what's going to unfold in that last 10 minutes. And that's what teams haven't been able to do to Dublin in a long time.
7-0 now to Liverpool. Mo Salah has scored against Crystal Palace, an absolute rout. Pillar, like I remember you had, you put the hat, the police hat, the Garda hat on Bernard Brogan in 2011. So you've moved from being a manager of a very successful team in the provincial level and had a few very painful days, the Mayo being one of them, to a citizen supporter. What are the memories that you cherish being in the fabric of, I know your brother played for the Dubs in '83, I think, of being a Dublin man and Dublin GA man?
Yeah, look, it goes without saying, a massive honour for my club, Navina, and for the Caffrey family. My mother is still alive and well at 92, and she got a good kick. She's a Cavan lady, so she got a good kick out of Cavan coming to Croke Park 2 weeks ago. And, you know, I would consider myself a very normal fella. I haven't got a massive background at inter-county level or anything like that. So to get the chance to come in and try and put my stamp on it for a couple of years, but I had a good ability to surround myself with great people, and God be good to Davy Billins. I hope he's looking down at Dublin today, but he was an exceptional guy who I'd worked with under Tommy, and he was the first man that I called when I was asked to assemble a team, and we worked very well together, and brought in Paul Clark, who was a fantastic ambassador and player and trainer, and then just surrounded myself with good guys, and we just tried to change little things and try and move it on, and I wouldn't take any credit for what's gone on at the moment, albeit Stevie Cluxton is still around and has changed the course of the game. We all thought Billy Morgan was a fantastic goalkeeper for Cork back in the day, but I think they'll be talking about Stevie Cluxton in another 100 years, what he done for Dublin football and how he changed it. So it was small things. And look, I think Mayo, I would agree with John, Mayo are hugely unlucky that they have been fantastic opponents. And they've that, ultimate slice of luck that you do need to go with you. That has been denied them on the big occasions. And it would be wrong of any Dublin person to say that there's not one or two of those games that should have gone Mayo's way. Very unlucky that it didn't. And, there would be none of this talk of 6 in a row or 7 in a row. And someday that luck will turn if Mayo keep themselves in positions to keep looking down the throat. Coming down the final few minutes of a game.
Yeah, John, I think the Mayo fans are absolutely brilliant, and that is in no way patronising. And I think what they've shown and what the players have shown and this team has shown over the last few years is that it's not necessarily about winning. It's actually about the journey. And the journey since you were there in 1989 when you ran Cork close in the All-Ireland final has lasted, 31 years with Mayo. We're back reaching All-Ireland finals. This week it's very strange. The Mayo fans are not there tonight. The Pilgrims are at home or wherever they are, or they're tuning in overseas. And does that actually help Mayo, the fact that there's maybe a little bit of a lack of hype and distraction? Because there's always huge an association with supporters and the team. Go work both ways, I suppose.
I think in an ironic way that is the truth of it. I think even driving around a little bit in the last week, there was. At the beginning of the week, there was very little, even flags up or whatever. Obviously, as the week went on, there has been a massive kind of build-up in a quiet way. But I mean, compared when I think back to '89, when we beat Tyrone in the semi-final that year, it was innocence, if you like, in many respects, which was outside our comfort zone. But for every training session, you had 3,000 and 4,000 people. You had, I remember us flying up from Knock Airport, and you had hundreds seeing us off, and even after losing the final on the Monday evening, coming back there, you had up to 10,000 people greeting us as champions. But it has got, that was the beginning, I think. But you had obviously continued then in '96, '97, and the noughties. But I suppose it's maybe unfortunate for Mayo in the sense that they have come up against what is going to be regarded, I would imagine, whatever happens this evening, as one of the greatest teams ever in Dublin. But the fans have never lost heart, and I have no doubt that actually some of them are probably booked into hotels or that in Dublin in case that this it happen, and that they'd be actually close to the scene if it did happen. And I think there's, obviously people have been very careful with the COVID, and I think all of that is a help to the team. I think I saw Cillian O'Connor in an interview this week, actually, if we remember, I think was it in 17 and one of those All-Irelands where he had to take a free, which would have put them ahead in the last minute or two of the final into the hill, but he was kind of rejoicing in the fact that if similar things happen, that there'd be no one on the hill maybe. So that might be a benefit as well. But no, I mean, the amount, I suppose, of passion and the amount of the biggest following. I mean, at league games, Mayo in recent years would have a travelling support of 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 people, and that's for away games. So it has really built off, and you know, we had a slogan in '89, "Keep the faith." So I think the faith has not only has the faith been kept, but it has grown. And if it ever happened, I mean, in all logic, if you were predicting this evening and in all evidence, you'd have to, you know, everyone would almost, I think, you know, say that the certainty would be Dublin. But, you know, team sports, it's not an exact science, and I suppose that's the faith that the Mayo fans have over the years, and it grows as the years go on.
Yeah, you're in the unusual position, John, of having experienced pain as a Mayo manager in '89, and probably as a fan since then. And you've also been on the other side of the coin, where you've managed Galway to win 2 All-Irelands, 98 and 01. As Kevin McStay wrote this week, it's an addiction, and that's why Mayo keep coming back. And
it is, and I think it's a tribute to them that they have come back. I mean, like if you're Jim Gavin or if you're Desi Farrell and you're going to some player and say, well, you know, will you join the panel or whatever, you can almost say to them, look, if you're in there, you have a great chance of an All-Ireland medal. I mean, all of the Mayo managers of recent years, James Horns, Stephen Rochford, John Mahon, Pat Holmes, Noel Connelly, I'm probably leaving out a few there, myself included. You know, you couldn't make that promise. So to keep coming back, and in many ways, the Mayo team that's in Dublin this evening reminds me of the Galway team in '98, where we actually had 5 under-21s on the team, and we didn't win. Laois beat us in an All-Ireland semi-final on that particular year in the under-21, and we had 5 of those actually playing in the starting 15. And won the senior final with them, you know. So I remember leaving. We were beaten by Laois in Longford by a point, and I remember leaving the dressing room and saying to the lads that were on the senior panel, "We'll make up for this in September." And that's what happened. And there is that bit of freshness. I mean, it's amazing to think. I was just looking up. I think of the 2013 Dublin Mayo final, you have I think there's 5 of the Mayo team and just 4 of the Dublin team there today in the teams that have been picked. And even of the 2017 final, you have just 9 from Dublin and I think 7 from Mayo, I think, in the starting. So, you know, the whole thing has evolved and changed, and I think that this year particularly has brought that freshness to Mayo. So those young lads don't have any baggage. So as I think as Pillar said there, you know, the longer Mayo can hang into this game, you know, I suppose the worry would be that, you know, the chances that we coughed up against Tipperary, I think not so much the ones in the second half when the game was done anyway, but I think in the first 10 minutes, you know, with Quinlivan and Sweeney, you know, having missed the open goal, I mean, how different that game could have been. And I think that what will be hugely important for Mayo is that, you know, James says that you have to take risks, but I think it would be hugely important that Mayo would stay in this game, and particularly at the start to try and blunt, if you like, the thunder that Dublin usually, you know, at the beginning of either half, which they usually come out with. And last year in the semi-final, it was in the first few minutes of the second half. So I think that's the challenge for Mayo. That I don't think they'll fear Dublin, because the older players have the experience of having been toe-to-toe with them. But I think that they do have to, you know, while they need to take risks, I think that they probably need to stay in that game, and particularly in the early stages of the game, to set up what a grand finale that it could be.
All-Ireland Football Final Day, 5 o'clock throw-in at Croke Park in December of 2020. We're chatting to the former Dublin boss, Pillar Caffrey, and the former Mayo manager, John O'Mahony, on the Saturday panel. Do you have any questions for our guests on the game today? 53106, that's the text number. Especially, we would like to hear from Dublin and Mayo people. Have you decorated your house in the county colours? Give us a shout out. Show us your passion for Gaelic games. Like John Mahon was speaking on OTB AM, our digital show, during the week, Pillar, and talking about going for cups of coffee with Willie Joe Padden, Martin Carney, things like that. Finding an outlet to talk about the match, because we can't go to the local tavern for a drink. It's a strange one. It's who'd you be normally talking to and chewing the fat with of a week like this, and what have you been doing instead?
Yeah, well, we're lucky enough that some of the hosteleries around here are open. So I've been out one or two nights myself, and I've three lads in the house here, Jack, Adam and Eric, and the three of them be connoisseurs of the game and a huge interest. So the circle that I have, it'll be all GA people, and I was doing a few deliveries for my mother yesterday, a few presents dropping around, and one of them was down to Johnny Cooper's mother. She wasn't in, but you know, it's a small little parish around the area here, and funny enough, like John was talking about, low-key build-up. Last Sunday, I actually drove down Clonderriff Road at half-time in the McDonagh Cup final. So All-Ireland Sunday, hurling day. And there was three people just at the entrance where the teams go in off Clonderriff Road with Waterford flags. And that was the only semblance that you'd know there was a game going on in the stadium. I'm living here in the house in Glasnevin, so we're about a mile from Croke Park. And I was out and about with Yvonne this morning getting a few messages, and you know, it's all Christmas buzz. There's no flags or buntings on cars, very, very little flags around houses or anything like that. So it certainly is a strange one. Funnily enough, you know, in the last few years, we used to be dreading Mayo coming through and getting to the final because they have such a pull on tickets. And I think every Mayo person was coming home from America on a yearly pilgrimage, and they were soaking up a lot of the tickets. Albeit, I was having a pint with my lads last night, and they said one of the big guys in Chicago is actually came home. He obviously can't go to the final, but as John said, there's a lot of Mayo people that they have traditions and they don't want to miss out if when this does happen. But this guy is home for the week. He hopes it's going to be a week of celebrations afterwards or whatever. So no, they're fantastic supporters, and I would go as far as saying that I felt in several of the recent All-Irelands that Mayo they actually outnumbered the Dubs in the stadium, albeit Hill 16 is certainly a cauldron for any free taker to be eyeing up a last minute free. But you really have to take your hat off to them. They go and they get their tickets, and they're great GA people, as we say. You know, if it was to be today, there's not too many Dubs that would begrudge them their victory.
Absolutely, Pillar. Yeah, Pillar, Caffrey and John O'Mahony here on the Saturday panel. We're going to take a break and then preview the match afterwards. 53106 for text messages from our listeners. Yeah, like in Chicago, the Prudential building has been covered and decked out in the lettering of Mayo for Sam. So like that's one thing from around the world that we've seen.
Of Knock, the airport in Knock in the Mayo colours, and some of my Garda friends who are Mayo people were saying, sure, we've God on our side, we can't lose today. So time will tell.
The Basilica is all lit up in red and green, so we're not only are we expecting miracles, we're demanding them.
Very good.
We'll hear from David Brady and Nathan Murphy at Croke Park later on. We're going to preview the match on the Saturday panel, Dublin and Mayo, after this. Don't go away.
The Saturday panel on Off the Ball. News Talk already gives you your daily fix of news and entertainment. But wouldn't you like a little bit more? News Talk Extra is everything you might have missed, plus expert tips, podcasts and competitions, all straight to your inbox. Subscribe now at newstalk.com/extra.
Whether the Christmas Day family video call happens across different counties or across 3 global time zones, at Vodafone, we know Christmas traditions are all about connecting. Feel the joy of unlimited connection this year with Vodafone Pay As You Go. Enjoy unlimited data and €50 off the Samsung Galaxy A21s and the Samsung Galaxy A41, all on Ireland's best performing mobile network. Switch to Vodafone Pay As You Go in store today. Terms apply, see Vodafone.ie. €20 top-up required. Offer ends January 5th, 2021.
Make it a really good afternoon and check out the great car insurance discounts at insuremycars.ie. Ireland's trusted car insurance specialists. For super family savings, check out insuremycars.ie. City Financial Marketing Group Limited, trading as insuremycars.ie, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
Christmas this year will be a little different. But when you keep your distance, you're protecting yourself and those around you from the spread of COVID-19. But when you drop your guard, when groups get together, when you don't give others space, you could become exposed to the virus. So keep doing the right thing, not just for yourself, but for those who matter most to you. Let's stay safe this Christmas. From the HSE.
Follow the leader, the Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV, the world's best-selling plug-in hybrid, is now available with 0% finance and a free home charge point worth €800. Leading the charge in plug-in hybrid technology, the Mitsubishi Outlander PHEV. Book a test drive at your local dealer today. Mitsubishi, drive your ambition. Terms and conditions apply. See mitsubishimotors.ie. Lending criteria applies. This is a hire purchase agreement provided by Bank of Ireland Finance.
Bet smart this season with stat betting on the Boyle Sports app. Bet on shots, shots on target, tackles, passes, assists and more, all powered by Opta. Plus, put your feet up and cheer your bets home with free live streaming on every UK and Irish horse race. Why not check out the hottest action on the biggest sporting events right now on the Boyle Sports app. Boyle Sports. This is betting. Need help? Contact gamblingcare.ie. 18+.
Make everyone's Christmas merry and bright with the perfect gift. At CompuBee, we have a few bright ideas of our own to help you make this Christmas truly special. From iPad to AirPods, Apple Watch to MacBook, we have all the latest from Apple and the expertise to make sure you choose a gift they'll never forget. When you think Apple, think CompuBee, your local Apple expert. Visit your local store or shop online at compubee.com for free click and collect.
It's been a tough year, and this Christmas so many families are in crisis because of COVID-19.
Within weeks, we were living a nightmare. Our jobs had gone. We couldn't afford the rent.
Because of people's kindness, Threshold is able to help so many who are on the brink. In fact, every day, Threshold is saving 9 families from homelessness. Please support our Christmas appeal to save family homes.
Visit threshold.ie to make an instant gift. Thank you.
2020. The year the bins went out more than you did. The year going out was to parks, not clubs. The year that online dating stayed online. The year travelling meant being allowed outside your 5K. The year Friday pints happened on Zoom. The year getting coffee was a reason to wear your good coat. The year you actually finished Netflix. We didn't get out much this year. Make the most of Christmas. Whatever you've planned, we are here. Free now. Ireland's #1 taxi app.
Don't miss the O'Brien's Christmas wine sale with over 200 wines from independent family wineries to well-known brands like Half Price, Monte Real Rioja Gran Reserva, now only $16.70, or Champagne Taittinger Brut Reserve, now $39.95. Save €21. Pop in store. Please enjoy alcohol sensibly.
At Expert Electrical Stores, LG OLED TVs bring you more. More pixels, over 8.3 million. They add up to make LG OLED TVs richer, sharper and smoother. Now they're bringing more boom to your room. Get a free LG speaker with every LG OLED TV at Expert Electrical Stores nationwide or at expert.ie.
Christmas has come early with the Pamela Scott Massive Winter Sale. Now on in all stores nationwide and online at pamelascott.com. Get up to 50% off your favourite fashion brands. Don't miss out. The Pamela Scott Massive Winter Sale now on in all stores nationwide and online at pamelascott.com.
The Saturday panel on Off the Ball.
Yes, this is the Saturday panel on Off the Ball on News Talk here. John Duggan with you through until 8 o'clock this evening, an extended show, the last one before Christmas. Dublin and Mayo throwing in at 5 o'clock. We've also got commentary of Munster and Clermont Auvergne later on. 53106, hello to John O'Mahony from Spud in Castlebar. Driving in the opposite direction today is strange. Heading from Dublin to Castlebar to watch the match absolutely is strange. We're speaking to John O'Mahony and Pillar Caffrey about Dublin and Mayo. Let's preview the game. I suppose we've kind of done some reminiscing about past finals and past matches. And if anybody is listening on News Talk, you can also be aware that we're also streaming the panel for those who would like to watch us on our social media channels for Periscope on Twitter, @OffTheBall, and YouTube, Facebook, and on the new OTB Sports app. So John O'Mahony, okay, 1998, 2001, you're in a Galway dressing room, you're plotting the downfall of Kildare and Meath. If you were in the dressing room today for Mayo, how would you be planning tactically from a Mayo perspective to bring down the Dubs' downfall?
Well, I suppose that's you obviously, as I said there earlier, I think what you'd have to do is to first of all, that the belief is hugely important, and I think there's no reason why Mayo don't have the belief. And obviously, you want to stay, weather the early storm that inevitably comes from the Dubs. I think that I'd be saying to the Mayo lads, obviously, that they have been stress tested. I think they were stress tested in the Connacht final, whereas Dublin haven't. And obviously to put Dublin under that pressure that they haven't had since last year's All-Ireland final. I mean, obviously the tactical and the matchups, then it'd be hugely important. All that would be gone through in advance. The only problem you'd you'd worry as a manager that, no matter how many people you man mark in Dublin, there can be a new hero every day, as it were, and so you'd be planning all those ultimate things, and obviously if matches goes into extra time and penalty takers is slightly different now because it has to be finished on the day. But that, I think the ultimate belief is what you're hammering home at. All the tactical situations would have been dealt with, during the week, and because the level of absorption of any new tactical ploys in the dressing room beforehand is out the door nowadays. You have analysed it down to a T, and basically what you'd be doing is convincing them that the work is done, that it's about implementing the plan and sticking to the plan at this stage. And obviously, while playing on the edge, also staying on the field, I think that'd be hugely important.
Yeah, Damien and Mayo, John, has been in touch about David Clarke. He says he's a great keeper, but his Achilles heel is the kickouts. And Dublin last year turned over 27% of opposition possession on kickouts. What do Mayo do with the kickout?
Well, I think that has been, an ongoing thing. I think not just for David Clarke, it was for Robbie Hinnelly as well. I think David Clarke in recent games, I think has done quite well with his shorter kick out. I think, I always maintain that kick out is not just about a goalie and as in days gone by between four midfielders. It's now, there's 10, 15 players almost involved in the thing of the kick out. I think nobody does it as well as Stephen Cluxton. That's obviously an advantage. I don't think David Clarke would claim that himself, but David Clarke needs the help of everybody and the options from everybody for every single kick out. And obviously if Dublin push up on them, then the one thing that people seemed to have missed is that David Clarke would have one of the longest kickouts. Now, that hasn't been in vogue in recent times, but, we've seen it with Donegal, with the Donegal keeper in the last number of years, where he has overshot all of even if Dublin do push up. That the worry you'd have, of course, is that you have the Fintons and the James McCarthy's dominant in that middle third. I mean, Mayo have a different type of midfield this year with two runners really in Matthew Rowan and Conor Loftus. So there may be a problem with, depending on Dublin's. I think they will push up, but it's not just David Clarke's problem. It's a problem for half-backs, midfield, half-forwards, and a continuous concentration on giving the options to the keeper.
Pillar, Conor Callahan, like last year, was devastating in the semi-final. Who marks him? Kieran Kilkenny and Dean Rock. When I'm thinking about these guys, I'm thinking about their confidence having improved. Like Kieran Kilkenny had a really good game in the replay last year. Dean Rock, of course, in 2017. Was so crucial, scoring that winning point. Kieran Kilkenny 117 from playing the championship. Dean Rock, I thought was excellent the last day. So Dublin have a lot of game winners, and Mayo will have to be original in defence in how to combat them.
Yeah, I keep it fairly simple in terms of, I think Mayo have discovered two really good forwards, Donoghue and Conroy, which has changed the focus of their attack. The big conundrum is, look, if Aidan O'Shea stays inside, there's not going to be much of a wind in Croke Park tonight. It's actually going to be a perfect evening for football. So it's not going to be a game of two halves where you can just throw a big full forward in there and try and lamp stuff in the top of them. But, there would be a question mark over Dublin's height in the full back line. I know Owen Merchant tends to try and drop back in and sweep in front. But, Davy Bourne, Mick Fitzsimons and Johnny Cooper, they're all 6 foot men, but they're not huge men. And whether they can be got at in the air, that'll depend on the quality of ball going in. So that's a big challenge in terms of what Dublin might have to face. I think if Kilkenny and Fenton are given the freedom of Croke Park, I think Mayo are going to be in awful trouble, because they are the two guys, football-wise, that really dictate how Dublin play. Brian Fenton for a midfielder, he's just majestic. He is capable of scoring 3 or 4 from play, winning kickouts and linking play. He's very, very smart on the ball. And Kieran Kilkenny, he's playing a little bit more inside now. It's a tactic that Desi is using very smartly, where himself and Con are switching roles every now and again, and they both bring different strengths to the game. Kieran Kilkenny just is the ultimate playmaker, where Con has that explosiveness that if he catches you one-on-one, he's very likely to take you on and go for goal. Kieran Kilkenny, not as much, but he's more just setting up plays and handles an awful lot of ball. So, if you're attacking Dublin, the old saying that the Kerry people use hammer to hammer, I think you have to go after Dublin's strengths. That if, I don't know who John feels that would pick up Fenton, or do they think that someone will go man-to-man them, but he really is that good of a footballer that there's a level of efficiency attached to this Dublin team, which is quite incredible, really, to watch them. The players are so comfortable on the ball. Most players are very comfortable playing off either side, left or right, whether it's hand or foot. And that is only sort of a newish thing with Dublin players, like going back to my time. Like Alan Brogan was very naturally two-footed, but there wasn't too many more that were naturally two-footed back in the noughties, where now nearly every guy is two-footed. But this level of efficiency which they bring to, and John was talking about, if you give Dublin the short kick out, they make very few mistakes in the next 20 passes before they get a shot off. And I think Mayo have to bring that fanatic energy that they've always brought to the big games in Croke Park, where they're just in your face and they're very, very physical. The game should be played on a knife edge in terms of physicality, in terms of contact. And I think they really need to get into Dublin in that sense, that to upset them and not let them just dictate by playing the ball around and getting their 20 or 24 passes off before they get Dean Rock in a perfect position to slot it over the bar. Because if they let Dublin play that game, and I would go as far as saying, the one area which Dublin haven't been hugely efficient in the couple of games is their goal taking. I think they butchered a few goal chances in the semi-final, and I think that's something that they would have worked on in the short period between semi-final and final, which in a way, if Mayo are going to cough up near as many chances as they did, I think you'll see a higher level of efficiency in Dublin's goal taking. I thought the last day, Philly McMahon took a shot when there was an extra pass on. Niall Scully slipped, but there was certainly a pass on for an open goal. Ryan Fenton took a point when Paul Mannion was inside him for a goal. So I think that's an area where Dublin will be actively looking to see, because really you would feel if Dublin score 2 or 3 goals today, I don't think Mayo can amass a scoreline big enough to beat them.
Yeah, Stephen Rochford on a roadshow was talking about chaos. They were trying to instill chaos into the situation in 16 and 17, John. Nearly worked. Jim McGuinness is writing today in the Times about Mayo have to apply pressure all the time. I'm looking at the young lads you were talking about there. Oisin Mullen's 20, so is Owen McLaughlin. Tommy Conroy's 21. He's got a pace in him, as has Ryan O'Donoghue. But can Mayo sustain that level of intensity for 75 minutes?
That is the challenge. I mean, it's a high octane game. You know, they are obviously superbly tuned and conditioned wise, but the type of game they play. And the other thing, and Pillar mentioned it there. You know, about Aidan O'Shea inside in the inside line, and I mean it's a perfect plan if the supply is there. But the danger, of course, is that supply is cut off, because Mayo's traditional game against Dublin would be the running game of your overlapping half backs, and you have McLaughlin. You have McLaughlin now added to that, and another list of an overlapping. You have Paddy Durcan. Obviously, they'll have man-marking roles as well, but they'll be hoping to get Dublin on the back foot. But I mean, if Mayo play that kind of running game, then Aidan O'Shea is inside waiting, and the ball isn't coming in. So there's a slight contradiction there. And obviously, the danger will be if that supply is cut off, then that Aidan O'Shea will have to drift out. So there's a lot of ifs and buts about this plan and implementing it. I think Aidan O'Shea would be a revelation at full forward and it is the possible one line of weakness. If there is any weakness in this Dublin team. But how do you exploit that with the likes of Fenton and James McCarthy and all of these guys in that middle third and Kilkenny, and I mean Kerry managed to contain Dublin last year in the drawn game, even though Johnny Cooper sending off. But it was from a coaching point of view. It was I remember at the replay, with Dublin in the final moments of the drawn game, took a few wild shots from outside. I think Conor Callaghan only scored a point. Paul Mannion got 2 points, and Kilkenny didn't score at all in the drawn game. Whereas in the replay, Mannion, Kilkenny, and Callaghan got 4 points apiece. So I mean, the challenge for Mayo is to contain all of those threats and still get the supply into their own. Get into their own danger. With Tommy Conroy, is playing with no baggage. Cillian O'Connor, as it were, has if he gets the space and the room, but the ball needs to get in there, and it needs to get in there quicker than by running at it all the time. So that's the challenge for Mayo. There's so many. If there's any there's no real logic that even I, as a Mayo man, can say, that this will happen. You just hope that, there's going to be unexpected things happening that if we were here until 5 o'clock this evening, that we wouldn't come across. So, you're hoping for some of those to happen, and that, as I said, that Mayo can stay in the game. But there's Dublin don't seem to do this complacency. And I don't think particularly they'll do it against Mayo, and that's a dangerous way to have them, I suppose. But
just on the
live in hope.
On the complacency thing, John, it's worth noting, that Dessie Farrell, I always felt, have managed him at club level. He was one guy that was always destined to become, Dublin's inter-county manager. He very intense guy and thought very heavily about the game. And coming into a dressing room where they've done a 5 in a row, it obviously was a huge individual task for him.
Difficult task, yeah.
But Dessie's first year as a minor manager, he got Dublin to an All-Ireland final where they were pipped by Tipperary. So there would be a lot of baggage there that Dessie carried over that defeat. And the same with his first year as 21 manager. They were beaten by Longford in Parnell Park. One of my own sons was playing that night. And again, it was a game that Dublin probably 19 times out of 20 wouldn't lose. But the season was over. They were bet by a Longford team that night. And the same, Dessie came back then and managed Nafina, and they were bet by Ballyboden after extra time. So his first year has been dogged by losing. Yeah. So if that's any little bit of hope.
Could we wish him a 4 in a row here? So,
But I don't think Dessie will not entertain complacency as one of the factors. He will have this little grind in his own shoe that, look, he wants to get over the line in this first year and start his era. And he's already put his own stamp on this era by, three fellas starting their first All-Ireland final. young Bugler, Paddy Small and Robbie McDade. So, you know, I think it's a fascinating game in terms of how it's going to pan out. I'm watching the 21 game here on the TV behind me. Croke Park, it doesn't look near as good as it would in September, but the pitch is playing perfect. So I think we're in for a real treat. And as John says, unusual things that happen in games. Whoever thought they'd be at an All-Ireland final and witness 2 OGs. Yeah,
well, Pilar, is there anything you're worried about? Is it Cillian O'Connor at all? Like, I'm looking at 4-9 against Tip, 30 goals and 328 points in his all-time record. Aidan O'Shea at full forward. Is there anything that's worrying you, like keeping you awake and anything at night in the last week about Mayo today? Look, genuinely?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The one team, you know, we all expected, if we were honest, we thought it'd be a Dublin-Kerry final this year. Donegal, through a great Cavan performance and maybe taking their eye a little bit off the ball, got caught up and didn't do the job against Cavan, and so they never got a shot at Dublin. Kerry, for whatever reasons, they got caught in the headlights and, you know, maybe went too defensive in their whole game plan and they were thinking too far down the line. I would always fear and respect Mayo because I know the quality of footballers they have, and also, you know, they match Dublin athletically. I think James Horton has gone with the young brigade, but, you know, I always say about Croke Park, it's only a certain type of player will excel in Croke Park, and he must have pace. You look at all Dublin's players, Dean Rock is probably the only guy in the 6 forwards who doesn't have real pace. And Dean is obviously exceptional free taker and is an exceptional shooter. So you're not coming into Croke Park taking on Dublin unless you have legs and pace and you can get at them. And you know, that's the fascinating thing. I think James Horton has stacked his team with youth and with pace. Now, whether fellas get caught, you know, first All-Ireland is a big occasion. I know there's no crowd, so it doesn't actually feel, or it doesn't have the same intense build-up. You know, there's no getting suits, there's no, you know, giving out tickets to families and friends and all the other distractions that come up being in an All-Ireland final. So it is very much, it's a one-off occasion. And I think for that, there is a little bit up in the air. You know, the Dublin guys that Desi has planted in, Robbie McDade hasn't been tested once as an actual defender this year. He's looked very comfortable in the setup. But, you know, Jim Gavin wasn't a bad judge of footballers, and Robbie couldn't make the 26 last year. Robbie's 27 years of age, so he's no spring chicken. So he could get a huge test defensively today if somebody gets running at him. The same as, you know, Paddy Small in club level is very, very good, but he hasn't finished the game he started with Dublin yet. And the same with young Bugler. You know, he had a very good Leinster final. It wasn't so good the last day. So there would be question marks over some of the Dublin guys that I suppose the one thing that I think of when I think what may go wrong, and I look at Dublin's bench compared to Mayo's bench, and I really think that for me is where the big swing is. Dublin's bench is stacked with guys who maybe feel a little aggrieved that they're not in the starting lineup, who certainly have, you know, pound for pound, they're as good as have been around. Like, we take on the likes of Paul Mannion and Brian Howard. Michael Darren McCauley has seen no game time hardly this year. You know, Cormac Hoslow has come on and usually delivers. And then you have Philly McMahon. If Aidan O'Shea is causing trouble in and around the full forward line, and Desi feels he needs a bit more physical strengthening, you have Philly McMahon to come in. So Dublin's bench is really stacked with guys that you know are going to give you an 8 out of 10 when they do come in, if changes have to be made.
Texan 53106, shame not to see a flag or jersey on display in my Dublin 8 home, city centre and beyond. Sad sight on All-Ireland Day. Look, to the texter, I don't think in April and May we expected this even to happen at all, so I think we should be grateful for the fact we do have an All-Ireland at 5 o'clock. David Brady and Nathan Murphy will be at Croke Park later on, but we're running out of time on the panel here. It'd be bizarre, obviously, after 69 years, if Mayo did win John O'Mahony today. They can't bring the Sam Maguire Cup back to Mayo this evening if they do win, obviously because of COVID restrictions. But if they do win it, John, at some stage next year, there's going to be one hell of a party.
Yes, I think, I mean, it would be a perfect end to a terrible year from a Mayo perspective. And I think it would be ironic, as someone told me this week, that I know that Old Moore's Almanac or something predicted that Limerick would win the hurling and that the next time Mayo would win the football, there'd be no one at it. So maybe the stars are lined, but it would be ironic that the cup wouldn't be. But look, I think if we got a claim to it when the pandemic was over, I think we'd be happy enough. We'd be happy enough with that. I'd like to, Pillars mentioned the bench there. When I saw this morning, I think there's over 35 All Ireland medals in it, and probably a similar amount of All Stars. So I'd agree with him there. There is some experience in the sense of Keith Higgins and Tom Parsons in the Mayo bench, but you certainly have, it's very, very, very weighted in favour of Dublin. But as I said, if Mayo win, they won't worry about not having the Sam Maguire home tonight. But there'll be muted celebrations, but there'll be a bubble and an explosion ready to explode maybe around next June or July if it happens.
Our heart will say yes. John O'Mahony, does the head say yes briefly? No, I mean the heart would very much say would want Mayo, but the head, in all fairness, on all evidence, would have to say Dublin. But look at there has been a few twists in the championship, and maybe there's one final one. Okay, John O'Mahony and Pillar Caffrey, I presume the heart and the head are aligned briefly for you for Dublin to win the 6 in a row.
Yeah, look, I just hope we have a great game. I don't see Dublin not winning this one, but let's hope that Mayo bring their A game and Dublin bring their A game. We get a great spectacle for everyone to enjoy.
Pillar Caffrey and John O'Mahony, we have to leave it there. May the best team win in the All-Ireland football final today. Thanks for being such good sports and Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk, and have a great Christmas, folks.
Thanks, John.
Okay, John O'Mahony and Pillar Caffrey there. We'd like to get you involved on our football debate, 53106. Liverpool now surely clear favourites to win the Premier League, thumping Crystal Palace 7-0 today. Back after this.
The Snowman or a Muppets Christmas Carol? A Muppets Christmas Carol.
Oh, Muppets Christmas Carol.
A Muppets Christmas Carol.
Muppets Christmas Carol. I watch it about 4 times a year, even when it's not Christmas.
Merry Christmas from News Talk.
You're the one who knows that speed limits are the limit, not a suggestion. That hazard lights don't make double parking okay, yet you get nothing in return. Well, the revolution you've been waiting for is here. Aviva are shaking up car insurance for safe drivers with a no-claims bonus discount